Yo, 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 welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. Today on the show, we've got Jordan Brand's latest NFL star to sign on, Nike Kobe's finally becoming available, Jordan Chiles debuting a new Air Max model, this week's hottest release, and of course, we have our Hard Pass. All right, so let's start the show with some hot takes. The NFL is back, and Jordan Brand has been stealing the headlines with players all over the league wearing player-exclusive cleats and converted retros. But the biggest news was the signing of last season's Offensive Rookie of the Year, CJ Stroud, to the brand, joining the likes of Jalen Hurts and Deebo Samuel. Stroud could be their biggest get since Randy Moss. Why? Well, when you consider his age, position, and potential, he could be a big presence for Jordan Brand for a very long time. He's certainly the best QB rocking the jump man in the state of Texas already, so can't wait to see what the brand has in store for him this season. And speaking of cleats, Nice Kick's excellent recap of the week that was in footwear in the NFL showed a few things that I think need to get more attention. First is that the league seems to be getting more lenient about what kind of cleats players can actually wear in the game. Sure, we're not at the NBA's level yet where it is a free-for-all and the goal seems to be to never match sneakers with uniforms, but we're getting more variety than we used to. Like, Travis Kelce's Concord 11 cleats would have been a major controversy a few years ago. Now, it's maybe the 65th most interesting thing to happen in the whole Kelce Swift universe just this week, but it happened. Byron Murphy Jr. wore cleats with Jordan 1 lows decked out in Swarovski crystals, designed by the homie Mosh. That would have led sports talk radio with Neanderthals calling and complaining that it's ruining the game that they love. It's just another part of the game, and that's a beautiful thing. But what isn't a beautiful thing is the lack of energy for non-Jordan retro cleats. Everybody from Nike and Jordan to Adidas to Under Armour, well, UA can only do so much with that logo, but anyways, I need them to show some pride and design some modern cleats we can all get behind. Yeah, seeing Deion's DT96s back on the field is cool. I love it. But that can't be all there is. Everybody likes to talk about football being a reflection of America. Well, the NFL's cleat game is a reflection of sneaker culture stuck in the 90s. It's great we don't forget our past, but it would be nice if we could just move forward. Or, if you're going to keep mining our nostalgia for hits, do something different with them. The Nike Kobe 6 Protro has been dominating the timeline in the feed of players in the NBA and WNBA with, shout out to Caitlin Clark and her new player exclusives, that's fire, but maybe the most interesting new release in my opinion is the upcoming All-Star 2.0 that will likely drop when else? During NBA All-Star Weekend next year. Why I find it interesting is because the upper features a familiar snakeskin pattern, but switches things up on the lateral side with many stars. Knowing a change up to the Kobe 6 formula like that is possible opens up the silhouette to drastic revisions that can extend the shelf life and hype cycle for the sneaker. It's very intriguing. Now, I hope this isn't just some one-off and that Nike is taking this to their design team and telling them to come up with new patterns or reaching out to outside artists who have a connection to Kobe for some collaboration. It would be the most interesting take on the Kobe 6 since the artist designed Prelude Pack version over a decade ago. And no, I don't want to talk about how the Prelude Pack was a 2013 thing. Keeping it on the Kobe side of things, let's take a look at the availability of the Team Bank colorways of the Nike Kobe 8 Protro as of this recording. Nike.com is sold out of all of the colorways in the adult sizing. We've got a handful of sizes still available at places like Dick's Sporting Goods, and there's a healthy selection of kid sizes. If you're wondering where all the adult sizes went, check your favorite reseller platform both online and at the mall. They're probably selling them for close to or below retail because, LOL. You know what? I'm okay with this. The kids can get the Kobe's now, and eventually the opportunistic resellers who think they can still make money off these Kobe's are going to learn the same lesson that they did when they bought all of those Panda Dunks when Nike amped up production. And in time, the new batch of GR Kobe's will be just as easy to buy as your LeBrons or KD's or Jordans. Some might even go on sale if they've been sitting for so long. So thanks, John Make More Protros Donahoe, but really, you should have done this sooner and saved Kobe fans a lot of heartache. Now, if you're still not happy because you want the ultra rare Kobe's, well, I got nothing for you there. That's just the nature of the sneaker game, people, and it's a tale as old as time. You're not always going to get the hype Kobe's that you want, but ask yourself, was it really about honoring Kobe, or was it about the clout that you thought you were going to get? When you're an Olympic gold medalist and a Nike athlete, you can do a lot of things us normies can't, like debut new Air Maxes while throwing out the first pitch at a New York Mets game during the New York Fashion Week. That's exactly what Jordan Chiles did, as she showed off the Nike Air Max Muse for the first time in a shiny silver and black colorway. Now, where have I seen a 90s inspired sneaker in silver and black? Oh, right, there it is. The Reebok Engine A from last week. Shout out to Angel Reese. Hoping for a speedy recovery so she'll be ready to go next season. Anyways, seeing the Engine A and the Air Max Muse within a week of each other is nothing more than a wild coincidence. At least, I hope it is. And Kendrick Lamar, well, he dropped a new single on Instagram, and the picture accompanying it is a used pair of black Air Force Ones that he found on eBay. Yeah, he's really not letting anything go, is he? Owning the summer, soundly defeating a rival. Well, I guess you can't really call it a rival. Super Bowl halftime show. Look, even untouchable doesn't sound like a strong enough word to define the run he's been on. And before we go to the pick of the week, a special shout out to A'ja Wilson for breaking the WNBA's regular season mark for the most points in a season, which was held by Joelle Lloyd for one season. Yeah, that's what happens when you expand the number of games. But Wilson did break the record in less games than Lloyd, while also being on pace to average the most points in the season ever. So, yeah, let's get that signature shoe, Nike. Come on. Just because you finally got Kobe's in stores doesn't mean we're done. All right, these are our picks of the week. There's a lot of good sneakers dropping this week. It's actually an unusual amount. Is this the end of like a financial quarter or something and all the brands are just dropping something of note? It's wild. Anyways, here's a small sampling for the rest of the list. Again, there's a lot to look for. Check out this week's edition of the Heat Check over on the main Cousteau channel. So we have the Adidas Impact Plus in the Swarovski crystals. That's going to be on the 17th for $440. You heard that right. We have the Verdi Nike Ashad 2 Visti on September 19th for $110. We have the women's Ama Maniere Air Jordan 4 While You Were Sleeping on September 20th for $225. Then we have the J-Tips and Saucony Pro Grid Omni 9 to-do list on the 20th for $180 each. All right, it's time for this week's Hard Pass. We're going to take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go. Like the vibe surrounding the PlayStation brand because, man, they could not have picked a worse time to announce a half-step upgrade that cost nearly $800. So, this past week, PlayStation kicked off the 30th anniversary celebration in 2025 with a handful of small announcements like bringing select soundtracks to music streaming platforms, community events, and some overpriced toys. No, not those ones, but they are kind of overpriced too. But hitting in the banner image was a teaser for what would end up becoming the next product set to drop in the PlayStation family, the PS5 Pro. Now, the Pro was not a secret. It had been rumored for a while now that Sony was going to release a PS5 with updated specs. What powered the news cycle were two things. Just how powerful was the update going to be, and how much was it going to cost? Well, we got answer to two things during a presentation hosted by PS5's lead architect, Mark Cerny. Man, I really hope people aren't taking out their frustrations on Mark. He's the tech guy, and we all know they're not usually the ones making the decisions that inevitably piss off the consumer. He's just doing his job, and that's to make top-of-the-line products, which is what the PS5 Pro is. One of the biggest gripes of this console generation has been the normalization of sacrificing performance for fidelity or vice versa. You want Marvel's Spider-Man 2 to run at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second? You can, but the game is going to look a little less crispy. But what if you don't want to sacrifice the game's look? Well, you can do that too, but expect the game to look choppy in motion. Co-writer's preference? Well, it varies from game to game, but the trade-off has never been so egregious that he thought to himself that a PS5 Pro was a solution. Even though it's been nearly 4 years, he's still overjoyed that there are SSDs on these things and every game he plays loads at a reasonable time. But what if you're a gamer who either passed on the PS5 when it first launched because you knew that a PS5 Pro was on the horizon? Well, your reward for waiting is a PS5 that is, at first glance, an incremental upgrade from the base PS5. Sure, Cerny sells you on games like Horizon, Forbidden West, and The Last of Us Part 2, no longer forcing you to choose between performance or fidelity, but are they really that much better? It's hard to tell for sure because we're all just looking at YouTube videos, but right now, the Pro doesn't feel like the PlayStation 5.5. It's more like PlayStation 5.25, which wouldn't be a problem if the Pro didn't cost nearly $800. Yeah, check this out. So the stinger at the end of the video is that the Pro will drop on November 7th for $6.99 in the US and even more in other territories. It will not come with a disk drive, but you will have the option to buy one for $80. Well, that is, if you can find one, because apparently after news of the Pro drop, scalpers bought up all the disk drives in hopes of reselling them. Good times. Back in 2017, when the PS4 Pro was revealed, it was priced at $399, the same number as the launch PS4. The expectation among sane people was that the PS5 Pro would be priced at $499 and the base PS5 would go down to $399 or less. But no, the PS5 stays at $499 while the Pro goes up to $699. But why? Because hubris in the video game industry failing to read the room. That's why. And spare us the, well, Sony has been subsidizing the PS5 and selling it at a loss spiel. Don't care. Sell it at a reasonable price point, make up for it by producing killer software that appeals to all gamers, and don't rely only on $100 million bets that have a low chance of recouping the cost, aka Concord. Look, CoRider could spend hours on this topic, but the short version is that the video game industry has been making a lot of bad bets, pissing off consumers and failing to meet expectations for a long time now, and the bills are coming due. The success of forever games like World of Warcraft, Fortnite, and Minecraft made C-suite jerk-offs think that the only way to make big money is to build these $100 million live service games that players come back to for years and years, failing to see why those games were not successful. Newsflash, not everybody wants to play games that forces you to repeat the same mundane task every day just so you can check a box and earn enough points to unlock a cool costume. Then there's the rush to embrace and merge studios during the pandemic era only to cut bait and lay off thousands to maintain profit margins was also not a solid strategy. And then there's the reality check. This generation does not feel that much different from the previous generation. The jumps from the PS1 to the PS2 to PS3 felt like monumental shifts. The PS3 to PS4, not so much. The PS4 to PS5, spoiler, most of the games you're playing on the PS5 are still playable on the PS4. Sure, it's probably not advisable to play God of War Ragnarok on a 2013 PS4 unless you like playing video games with the sound of a jet engine blaring in your media center, but the option is still there. In many ways, we still haven't moved on from the console generation that began 11 years ago, because Sony and Microsoft, who went through the ringer with their Xbox fan base a few months ago for bundling too many things to list here while allowing Sony to dog walk them in console sales, still haven't moved on. But because they are the industry leader by such a wide margin, Sony feels that they can get away with this price point. And even if they don't and sales of the Pro are in the tank, the calculus is that those who waited for the Pro will compromise and end up buying the base PS5. Why? Because they have to make the jump to this generation eventually, and it's probably not going to be with an Xbox. Oh, and the juggernaut called Grand Theft Auto 6 is on the way, and that's not coming out on PS4. The moral of this story? Don't feel pressured into buying a PS5 or a Pro. If you want to really maximize your budget, buy a Steam Deck or a PC with comparable specs and the Nintendo Switch successor whenever that comes out. Games that were once PlayStation and Xbox exclusive all show up on PC now, and you still have access to Nintendo games that will never show up anywhere else. Let PlayStation and Xbox sweat it out, get their houses in order, and come back with products we can get behind at prices we deem acceptable. With that being said, let's try to end things on a positive note. So here are CoRider's 30, yes, I know, 30. CoRider is, just stick with us here. Look, it's like the tagline says, it's a show about sneakers, kinda. It is the 30th anniversary, and PlayStation has been such a huge part of the culture. So here we go. CoRider's 30 favorite PlayStation moments that he probably just remembered at the time when he was writing this, so it's probably not even his real 30. But anyway, sorry. Number 30. Former Sony Interactive CEO Ken Kutaragi, aka the father of the PlayStation, said that the PS3 was for consumers who were willing to work more hours just to buy it. Hubris, people. Hubris. 29. Live golf trophies. They look like PS4s in vertical mode, don't they? Like, they do, right? 28. The OG NBA Street paving the way for the GOAT, NBA Street Volume 2. 27. Everyone convincing parents that the PS2 was a good investment because, well, it has DVD playback. And we need a DVD player, obviously. 26, the PlayStation 9 commercial. We might not even get to the PS7 at this rate. 25, turning the original PS1 on its side just to make it work. 24, getting that first platinum trophy in Telltale's The Walking Dead. 23, witnessing a PS5 game load so much faster than previous generations and being thankful for SSDs. 22, the infamous handoff 2013 E3 presentation when Sony destroyed Xbox after Microsoft got airing it and introduced features that either nobody wanted or too few people were ready for at the time. So I guess they were just ahead of the times. 21, which remind us of the infamous $299 1995 E3 presentation when PlayStation wrecked the Saturn after Sega got too cute and shock dropped their new console that day for $399 in an era when people and retailers weren't ready for shock drops. 20, the Drew League teasing a new PlayStation Air Force One the weekend before E3 in 2018. Basketball and video games? Perfect marriage. 19, 50 Cent, Blood on the Sand trophies only being available in the Japanese version. I get it. 18, attending the infamous Sony E3 parties in the early 2010s, but unfortunately, never seeing drunk executives acting like dorks or surprise performances from artists like Missy Elliott or the Foo Fighters or Ludacris. It was ridiculous. 17, being heartbroken seeing Sega games on the PlayStation 2 for the first time after Sega killed the Dreamcast. Let's have a moment of silence for the Dreamcast. Anyway, 16, having long conversations with people at Sony about what to do with the vastly underrated PS Vita and realizing they're not going to listen to the feedback. RIP PS Vita. 15, being invited to Sony Santa Monica Studios and being one of the first people outside of Sony to see and play. He signed an embargo, so it's probably not enforceable now, but he's not taking any chances, so we bleep that out just to be safe. Number 14, respecting the hell out of the Souls games and always trying all of them at least once before quitting. Maybe he'll fire up Elden Ring someday. I'm going to say he's not going to. 13, learning and immediately forgetting how to use the soldering iron in order to play import games on the PS2. Look, we've all gone through a phase. Number 12, seeing the late Kobe Bryant hold up the original PlayStation Air Force One and make the same face that he made. Number 11, so he reviewed the worst PS3 game ever made that nobody has ever heard of, Datura. Let us know in the comments if you've actually heard of that game. 10, swinging around New York City in all of the Marvel Spider-Man games. Number 9, hearing Billie Jean the first time he got in the car at GTA Vice City. Number 8, hearing Shining for the first time in OG Lumines on the PSP. Number 7, interviewing Hideo Kojima, even though the only 2 Metal Gear games he ever finished were MGS1 and Revengeance. Number 6, opening his sealed copy of Castlevania Symphony of the Night on a random night in 2009 and realizing if he had just waited, played the game on an emulator, got it graded, and sold it during the pandemic era, he could afford multiple original PlayStation Air Force Ones and a second house. What an idiot. This co-writer guy. Number 5, pre-ordering a little-known Japanese game called Katamari Damacy in 2004, simply off hype. Number 4, starting a gaming podcast with a fellow games journalist based on their mutual admiration for the very misunderstood Final Fantasy XIII and their sequels. Shout out to Live and Game in LA, which is a title for a podcast. Did they use like the Tupac song for the... Sorry, moving on. Number 3, realizing that the end of Red Dead Redemption was not the end. Number 2, seeing Inaba in the summertime in Persona 4 Golden on the Vita. And number 1, standing at the top of the PlayStation booth during E3 2010, waiting for an interview, seeing the sea of nerds below him and realizing he had achieved one of his lifelong dreams of doing this video game thing as a career. And he also kind of felt like a king because he was up high, but we won't talk about that. Look, I know that was a lot. Just be glad he didn't also do a list of the 25 best Dreamcast games because that's being celebrated. It's his 25th anniversary last week. Its 25th anniversary last week. He might do one on the pod, though. So make sure you check out the Too Hard to Pass podcast. It's coming up on Tuesday. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Thanks for watching Hard Pass. I am Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week. If you'd like to possibly be featured in a future episode, give us a call at 818-493-9325. Leave us a short message, your socials if you want, no more than 30 seconds. And we might be off next week, but we might not be off next week. I'm going to China, but we'll talk to you all about that later. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Peace.